Hey loved ones, I'm Keyosha. It's pronounced Keyosha, meaning key of the ocean. I'm a life coach and a motivational speaker, known for my company Key Coaching, which focuses on self-betterment. In this podcast, I'm going to share with you what I've learned from being a coach. I'll provide you the keys not just to survive, but to thrive. Hey, and welcome back to Wisdom Wednesdays. Today's topic is interpersonal connection and general interconnection. So, interconnection is the connection to other things that are related to each other. Now, automatically, when we hear related and relative and so on, we think about our family, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, children, cousins, aunts, uncles, so on. Blood related to us. Or as I like to call it, blood of my blood, a phrase from Game of Thrones. So there are some sayings that we might be familiar with, such as blood is thicker than water. What many don't know is the complete saying goes like this. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. It gives it a complete opposite meaning, like it just changes the whole thing. It means that the covenants that you have are held more highly than the water of the womb that you've shared with other siblings, pretty much, or family members, obviously, because your parents' siblings also come from the same water of the womb. So now, with a full understanding of blood is thicker than water, the short form version of the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. You can already see where I'm going with this. Ultimately, your interconnection and your connection to other things that are related to each other is your chosen family, pretty much. It is your chosen covenant. And it's the people that you choose to surround yourself with, despite whether or not they are blood related to you, because of their effect on you. Obviously, you don't want every person around you to be a clone of yourself. That'd be kind of redundant. You know what I'm saying? No one would be able to tell who's who, be a lot more fraud. It'd be an issue. But your connection to the people around you and how they add or subtract value to your life has a big effect on your own success and your own productivity, but mostly your image of self. If I have friends or family that are around me that don't share the same ethics, values, and morals as me, then I'm going to struggle with my sense of identity and my sense of self. Obviously, my self confidence and my self esteem can be affected by it. I mean, if someone's telling you that the way you're doing things is wrong or weird, then of course you're going to question it as well. We naturally have the desire to make sure that we're, in a way, like fitting in. We don't want to be the outcasts. Shedding light on this, I'm reminded to remind y'all to get a pen and a paper. I need to start saying this right out from the jump, but get a pen and a paper. Write some of these down, take notes on whatever you want, but write especially this. What are my values? What are my morals? Until you've actually identified what your values and your morals are, it's going to be kind of cloudy to create clarity for others on what they should be honoring and respecting. If you have an idea of how you want your relationships to look in pertinence to loyalty, honesty, and respect, then when we're talking about these things, buzzwords that get thrown around these days, such as boundaries, these buzzwords that get thrown around these days, um, can't really be understood to the full extent unless you know exactly why your boundaries are in place. So, of course, what are your ethics and what are your morals and values? But also, what are your boundaries? Your boundaries are what is going to keep things, I don't want to say compartmentalized, but more organized for you. Because in our brain, we have a map. And so when you think about a map geographically, landscape, there are there's paths that you can go on hikes and walks on. Those are smaller roads. And then there's, streets that people can drive on and they take you a certain direction. One pathway might take me to work, the other pathway will take me home. And in our childhood and in our upbringing, we've actually had some pathways already created. The morals, ethics, and values from our parents were instilled in us. Obviously, when we were born, they created us. So we looked up to them as if they were gods. I mean, if ever, you were a child that was taught about Santa Claus, for example, or the Tooth Fairy, I'm sure it was devastating to find out that it wasn't real because your parents are like gods to you. So any flaw or any idea that this godlike person is just a mere human being is going to be difficult to swallow. Any little flaw. And there's many flaws in every parent. There's flaws in teachers. There's flaws in coaches. There's flaws in your friends and there's flaws in your family. So to have these kinds of individuals paving the roads in the map that we call our brain can be a helpful hand or a helping hand, but can also be a hindrance if they've paved a faulty road that you think leads to home, but actually takes you to the grocery store. You get there, you're like, I'm a little lost here. What's happening? So, in reference of those place points, I kind of want you to understand that those placeholders, like home, it would be your version of safety and security. Food, the grocery store, that would be your version of love and what fuels you. And you're kind of thinking that that route leads to love. But we've been taught sometimes by a faulty teacher or by a flawed teacher, a human teacher. So I want to encourage you with that visual idea of what a map is and that our brain is exactly that, a map with routes within it. That when we are learning what love means for us, what safety and security means for us, what interconnection to others means for us, whether or not it's solely based on your blood relatives, or if it's okay to actually feel more connected sometimes to a friend or a coworker than you might feel to your own sibling, then you'll realize that you actually need those kinds of people around you to share positive values You need those people around you to be soil, not clay. Because ultimately, as a people, we're trying to grow. And you would never plant a seed in clay. You're stifling the seed's ability to grow. Your intentions might be good. You're planting a seed. But to plant a seed in clay is to plant a seed to its own detriment. It's not going to grow in that kind of an environment. We need an ideal environment to flourish and bloom and blossom. And that's why it's really important for the people that are around you to be people that you can actually relate to. Not everyone is going to understand you. I mean, I'm a really clear communicator, but not everyone understands me. So it doesn't always mean that if you're growing and working on yourself, that everyone's going to be okay and everyone's going to get along. It just means that there might be some people that are functioning in a different way than you are. And so you've got to make sure you surround yourself with positive energy, positive people that share your values and that are soil, that help you grow and that are growing themselves. I loved a saying that I heard recently. And I feel like it's a shame to not be able to quote this person. I'm terrible with names and I'm going to have to start writing them down because I don't want to go to jail for plagiarism or whatever, copyright. But this individual said that it is a pleasure to be planted beside you. So that wording really resonated with me. It gave me the actual image in my mind of the individuals around me growing beside me as I am growing myself. Yeah, get fresh air, get sunlight, get water. You genuinely need to grow. These are all things that help you grow. Surround yourself with people that get fresh air, get sunlight, get water. This is the bare minimum. Are they taking care of themselves? When we're out in the day and we see a flower and it's open wide, showing its true self, all of its colors bright and vibrant, and then we go home and we're like, wow, loving that idea. We don't realize that like every single night, those flowers are kind of closing up and resting and then opening up again to face the world. We need rest. We can't have the mentality to be stuck in the workaholic lifestyle. You got to surround yourself with people who are getting rest, getting water, getting sunlight, getting fresh air. You need rest, water, sunlight, fresh air. Pen and paper this. But also, I think the most important thing here when we're realizing that our connections can come from not only family, but people who are not blood related to us, and that they affect our ability to grow, and that they also affect our construction work on our pathways in our brain that we call a map. We need to understand boundaries. The word can't be tossed around anymore. We need to understand exactly what our boundaries are and why they're in place. And a boundary is pretty much similar to like a barrier, That barrier is like a wall that you've kind of put up to prevent someone from affecting you in a negative way. You want to be able to grow. And so on the edges of a garden, sometimes there's fences, sometimes there's walls, so to speak. Fences are wooden walls. And it's because you don't want people trampling on that garden and trampling on that growth. When you break the stem of a flower, you can't continue to feed yourself to your full potential from the ground up, So that's what a boundary is. And unfortunately, interpersonal connections and just interpersonal on its own is like your connection in relation to other people and your relation in communication with others as well. So, that being said, and that being understood, it makes it a lot more simple because your boundaries can quite literally be in place by communicating more. You never want to come away from an interaction or an experience feeling like you've been, ripped off or shorthanded. Um, you don't want to come away from an experience feeling like you've been lowballed or the person didn't respect you or hurt you. And, you know, in the privacy of your own home or haven, you're there feeling terrible. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are the kind of things when we're holding in those feelings that we've had that are negative that can lead us to try to find, vices, lead us to want to smoke weed to relax or drink alcohol to let it all go and try to shake it off. I've been adopting the habit of physically shaking stuff off, like the actual act of shaking it off, before I try to reach for any kind of vice. But what I want y'all to take note of is boundary statements. Because a boundary statement is what creates that understanding of that wall. The simplicity to the intricacy of a fence or a wall is that it's a pattern, there is repetition. For each picket in a fence, no matter how unique, the replication of each picket is what creates the fence. Fences that are metal are also even made in factories, which means a machine can do it because it's coding and there's repetition and there's consistency. So when you watch a fence get made, you can look up a video after of watching a metal fence get made, and it just kind of moves side to side and twists the wires as it goes up. And you can picture that fence. So it's going to be your job, and write this down, to come up with your boundary statements. Repetition and consistency is another way to build confidence as well. As an actress in my extracurricular activities, I have to use repetition to learn my lines. I have to use repetition to rehearse. If I'm not rehearsing my lines over and over again, I'm not saying them confidently when the cameras are on. So I actually need to create that boundary and build within myself that I am taking on that character. And you want to be a confident character in this world. You want to be a character who is respected. If you want to be a character that is respected, then you have to understand where you need respect. Is it impertinence to people offering you a puff of a joint? Is it impertinence to people offering you a alcoholic drink? Is it impertinence to people asking you to come out and party even though you want to be at home? Is it impertinence to people asking you, to talk about a topic that you don't want to discuss? How do you set those boundaries? Do you allow them to peer pressure you to a point where you pour your heart out despite the fact of never wanting to do so and lacking the comfort and solidarity of a safe space? Could you, in that scenario, have said, I don't want to discuss that right now? Or, no thanks, I don't want to drink. No thanks, I'm not interested in going out. I got work tomorrow. I don't want to be late. Or whatever. I want to be well rested. Pick your statement and repeat it. When I'm having a conversation and it goes in a difficult direction, because sometimes I talk with my mom on the phone. We were like estranged for, I don't know, 12 years or something, 14 years. And sometimes when I speak with her, I remember why. I moved out at an early age. But also, I'm trying to grow and I'm trying to be the kind of person that leads with light and love and guides with growth. And so, despite anyone else's shortcomings, I do try to integrate positive, powerful progress into their life. But sometimes topics are challenging. Sometimes you'll find family members or friends talking about things that you do not want to talk about. And I have the exact same statement every time. I'm sorry, this topic is moving in a toxic direction, and I can no longer be on this phone call. The first time I said it, my mom tried to keep talking. I was like, okay. But then I realized, okay, I'm going to repeat it in the same conversation. But this time I'm going to conclude the call. I'm sorry, this topic is moving in a toxic direction. I can no longer continue this conversation. Click. Nothing can be said after that. The conversation is ended. When people are pressuring me to talk about something that I don't want to talk about, I'm sorry, I don't want to discuss that right now. I don't want to discuss that right now. I don't want to discuss that right now. I'm not shutting the person down forever, but I am telling them I don't want to discuss that right now. Eventually, they start to recognize the pickets in the fence. They're like, huh, I heard that before. This isn't the first time I'm hearing this statement. Every time I bring up the fact that she used to suck her thumb for 7 years, she always says that she doesn't want to talk about it. Okay, I'm getting the hint. It's an embarrassing topic for her. Maybe I'm not going to keep bringing it up because every time I bring it up, I miss out on the rest of the conversation with her. And that's what you need to do. For your interconnection, you need to choose your chosen family based on whether or not they share the same values and morals as you. There has to be a level of respect. And they need to be soil, not clay. Soil will respect your boundaries. Make sure to write your values and your ethics down. Write down your boundaries. And for the connection circle, feel free to tap my shoulder on any platform. You can go to Keyosha.com. I can provide you a copy of the connection circle. You can figure out who your connections are and who they're with. It's a paper activity that you can write down who's closest to you, that you feel is closest to you. Sometimes that can be surprising for people. They realize that who they thought was closest to them based on blood isn't actually the closest people to them based on their actual day-to-day life and who they interact with and who is affecting their growth. For more info, click below. Follow me on any of the platforms at Keyosha333. And like, comment, subscribe. Song suggestion of the week. Evil Eye by A Color Show. You're going to love it. See you next week. Have the best week.